Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to our council meeting this afternoon. Welcome the council and staff and our visitors who are here today to be part of the today's proceedings and presentation for us later. So I'll call to order this committee of the whole agenda meeting. And we acknowledge that we're in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. First on our agenda is 2.1, approval of the agenda. Everyone would have a copy of the agenda, and I ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please. Moved by Councillor O'Telling, seconded by Councillor Gould. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. 2.2, approval of the minutes. So we have minutes from the April 17th, 2024 regular committee of the whole meeting to be approved. And someone like motion, please. Moved by Councillor Porter, second by Councillor Joseph. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. And the second set of minutes are the April 24th, 2024 special committee of the whole. I'd ask for motion to approve those, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gilroy, seconded by Councillor O'Telling. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. 2.3, business arising is included and will be reviewed. Mr. Harrod.
Thank you, Your Worship. In the interest of time, business arising is at page 10 of Council's information package. There are 7 items. All are complete, save for one, which is the draft commercial development support bylaw, and we expect that for first reading in Council's attention in June. So, Your Worship, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, Mr. Harrod, regards to his report? Seeing none, thank you, sir. That brings us down to 2.4, public hearings and our presentation. So we do have a public presentation this afternoon. 2.4.1, presentation on Beaubassin Historic Site. We have with us Mr. Morris Hogg, Mr. Bill Casey, and Councillor Landry from the town of Amherst. I think everybody in the room knows our folks and our guests are here today. So, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Beer. Yes, there's 3 of us presenting today. Leon is the president of the Acadian Society of Cumberland. Bill Casey is the treasurer, and I'm the lowly secretary. But I'll start things off by, first of all, explaining why all of a sudden, for a year or so, we have an Acadian Society in Cumberland County. Bill Casey, and to some extent I, have been involved in this issue of the historic village of Beaubassin at the western tip of the Fort Lawrence Ridge for 20 to 30 years. And he's worked tirelessly to get the land rescued and to have it become a national historic site. And he'll tell us more about that through his slide presentation. Leon Landry and Bill and I met in December of 2022, to talk about what more can be done to bring Beaubassin out of the wilderness, so to speak. And we decided that we needed a larger base. It wasn't just up to Bill Casey or the 3 of us. We needed a larger base. And of course, I've, for quite some time, been interested in having such a society because so many of our citizens are of Acadian descent. And even though they don't have Acadian names anymore, the mothers and grandmothers and ancestors are Acadian, and most of them know it, and most of them are very proud of it. And in case you're wondering about that statement, I invite you in sometime when you have a chance to look in the Amherst phone book and look at all the Acadian names, starting with the Arsenaults, the Bellevaux, the Cormiers, the Gagnons, and on it goes. There's over 70 LeBlancs listed in the phone book, and the same is true for other parts of Cumberland County. So we decided that the time was right to form an association, to form a society. And we had our founding meeting on February 15th. You were there, Mr. Mayor, and extended some greetings. And I would just want to read, we've developed a pamphlet, and I have a copy for all of you to give to you when we're finished here. We've developed a pamphlet in English and in French. And in that pamphlet, it says the following: the Cumberland Acadian Society was founded on February 15th, 2023, to bring awareness of the significant Acadian history and heritage of the Cumberland-Chignecto area, to promote Acadian culture in all its forms, and to work towards the enhancement of Acadian historic sites. The society functions through 4 standing committees: ancestry, history, that's one committee, arts and culture, historic sites, and society growth. It also observes National Acadian Day through its festival committee. It has adopted the Bell of Beaubassin as part of its logo. And one way to illustrate that logo is to show you a license plate that we've developed. And I leave some of those with you for those that might want to have one, because if you scratch your ancestry, you might find that there might be some Acadians there. So that's what we've adopted as our logo, the Bell of Beaubassin, and there's a long, long history behind that. What Bill is going to do now is talk about how the National Historic Site became a historic site from a field that nobody considered to be important. And then Leon is going to talk about the festival that is going to be organized and the exhibit that's going to be happening in this town. And I'm going to wrap it up with a few words about why we're really here, and that is to seek your support. Not money, but your support. Okay, Bill.
Thank you, Morris. Are we okay? Anyway, all right, I was going to talk about the society encompasses the whole county, but I'm focusing on the village of Beaubassin. It's on the ridge over Fort Lawrence. I lived my whole life here. I never knew it was there. But I never knew the village was there. I never knew it existed. But it started in 1672. It was burned down in 1750. But around the year 2000, 3 men came into my office with a great big map that was taken by the RCAF using infrared photography. It showed 43 dots in a ridge. And here's the picture, and there's Ken System, one of the men. You see the dots? They showed up with infrared photography, which shows temperature change. And it was amazing to me that here was the remains of the burned down village of Beaubassin, an Acadian village. And it was just, it wasn't marked, it wasn't identified, it was a field. Anyway, I immediately realized that I'm really interested in human endeavor of the past and history. And this was an incredible thing to me to see this. So I tried to get Parks Canada interested. I tried to get the Nova Scotia government interested. I tried everybody to get nobody was interested, nobody participated in it at all. But first of all, we'll just go back to this map here. Beaubassin Village is right on the border of Nova Scotia now, but the yellow part of this map was British North America. The green part was French North America. Beaubassin was a French village on the wrong side of the river. So the French burned the village down, not the British, not the Acadians, but the French burnt the village down and made everybody move over to Fort Beausejour. This is a map of an ancient map of the Bay of Fundy. Beausejour served as an economic outlet or an economic transportation link for all of the Acadian villages all the way around the Bay of Fundy, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Beaubassin served as a transportation link across the Isthmus of Nova Scotia over to the Bay Verte and then on to Quebec, on to Louisbourg, on to Ile Saint-Jean. But it was a very busy village. Beaubassin was it's the second village to be established in Nova Scotia, and it was an economic hub. It's an incredible story of success for an Acadian village. I'm going back here, and this is just an artist's conception of the village. It just shows what it might have looked like. They had a little shipbuilding area on the Misquash River. They had agriculture. We know now they had tailor shops. They had blacksmith shops. They had livery stables. They had farms, and they had businesses where people imported and exported products and shipped them across the isthmus over to Port Elgin and then on to the rest of the Acadian area. The village was founded by Jacques Bourgeois in 1672, and Leon is a direct descendant of Jacques Bourgeois, which is really interesting. Leon is the father of my granddaughter, so I have a granddaughter who is a direct descendant of this gentleman right here. Jacques Bourgeois. So he's founded in 1672. Again, it was a very busy community until 1750, when the French burnt the village down and forced all the Acadians to move over to Fort Beausejour, which was then in the French area. Then the British came along right away and built houses on top of the foundations of the Acadian village buildings, which were burnt down. Okay. This is an artist's conception of when it became Fort Lawrence, the British fort. And you can see on the right-hand side of this picture, the village down below and the fort on the top, the village down below. And this is, again, not Beaubassin. This is when it became Fort Lawrence after the French burnt down the village and the British took it over. And again, this is the transportation link, and they have now found the whole link all the way across. They've even found causeways that were built by the Acadians over by Bay Verte. But the products and the produce from all of the Acadian villages in the Bay of Fundy would come to Beaubassin and be transported all the way across over to Bay Verte, and then shipped to Ile Saint Jean, Louisbourg, and Quebec. These are just a series of artist conceptions of what the village looked like and what the Acadians did. And this is a bridge on the road between Beaubassin and Port Elgin. And again, more pictures of the lifestyle of the Acadians. Okay. Okay, then in 1750, the French went back to the Treaty of Utrecht, which was signed in 1713. And then they absolutely confirmed that the border between English Canada, or English North America and French North America, was the Musquash River. And at this time, they determined that Beaubassin was on the wrong side of the river. So the French burnt the village down, moved everybody over to Fort Beausejour, and they established Fort Beausejour. That was in 1750. And this is another artist's conception of what they did. Again, it was the French soldiers that burnt the village down. And they separated the men from the women, and this is where the expulsion of the Acadians started. And then there were ships right here in our Bay of Fundy, right up by Beaubassin, where the men from Beaubassin were transported out onto the ships and taken to South Carolina and Louisiana. And here's just an artist's conception of how they separated the men from the women. More fires, but I mean, it was total destruction. All that was left was the foundations. And because they were burned, they showed up on this experimental infrared photography. It was an RCAF infrared photography airplane that took these pictures in the 60s. The one I showed you with the little black dots. And it just just surfaced in the year 2000, and then I thought we really had something. Okay. I tried everything I could to get somebody to listen to me. Nobody listened to me. I was a member of the third party at the time. I was in opposition, but the Parks Canada wouldn't listen to me. Nova Scotia wouldn't listen to me. The ministers wouldn't listen to me. Nobody was interested. I asked Mr. Creston, who was the Prime Minister at the time. I just walked across the floor, which is the beauty of our system. Every member of Parliament sits in the same room with all the cabinet ministers every day. It's a great system. Don't let anybody tell you different. Anyway, I just walked across the floor and I said, Mr. Creston, I have a problem in my riding. I was a member of the opposition third party. He said, come on up to my office and tell me about it. So I went up, and you can see down there on the bottom, you can see I had an 8.5 by 11 version of that map. And I just showed him, I said, I believe, I'm not sure, but I believe this is the burned down Acadian village of Beaubassin. And he looked at the map, and he said, isn't Fort Beausejour right over here? I mean, it was unbelievable that he could do that. But I forgot that he had been elected as the Member of Parliament for Beausejour back in '85. But I think there was only two people in Ottawa that could look at that little map of Fort Lawrence Ridge and say, isn't Fort Beausejour right over here? And one would be him and one would be me. But he knew it. Anyway, he said, there's a guy over at Parks Canada. I think he likes me. I can never remember his name. He's got an Anglo first name and a French last name. I'll call you in the morning with his name. So the first thing in the morning, he called me, and he said the guy's name is Alan Laturel. Alan, Anglo first name, Laturel, French last name. Anyway, here's his phone number. So I called him, And I said, Mr. Latrell, I didn't even know who he was. Could be the janitor as far as I know, but it turned out to be the president of Parks Canada. Anyway, I called him and I said, Mr. Latrell, I'd like to come over and show you an issue in my writing that I think it needs some attention. I'll be right over, he said. This is the same guy that turned me down about 6 times. Anyway, I said, no, I'll go over there. And he said, no, I'm coming there. So anyway, he came over and I started laying out all my papers and my maps and stuff, doing my dog and pony show, and he said, listen, he said, I'm going to save you some time. We've already appointed the chief archaeologist, Charles Burke, to go there. We're going to do a dig. We're going to find out if there's anything really there or not, because we didn't know. All we had was this map with black dots on it, but it was too important to take a chance on. Anyway, Charles Burke came. This is Charles Burke. We owe a great deal to this man because he took a really big interest in this. It was an amazing thing for him to do, but he conducted a dig. They've now found 53 foundations of an Acadian village. It's one of the most historic places in Canada, and I'm not exaggerating. It's one of the most historic places in Canada. They've got 7,000 artifacts, and they haven't finished the dig. Anyway, this man really took it to heart and spent a lot of time at it, and they have found all kinds of things. The first time they came, I was there. When Charles came the very first time, it was only 2 weeks after I met with Parks Canada guy. Charles showed up, and he had his GPS and his maps, and he superimposed them all. He said, if this is right, then there should be a foundation there. I'm going to dig a hole here. And he dug a 2-foot square hole, and he found a whole bunch of stuff. He found a hinge and a shoe sole and a pipe and a bunch of stuff. He was flabbergasted. He said, I dig holes my whole life and never find anything. Anyway, then he said, I'm going to go right over here. There should be a foundation right next to it. And he dug a hole, and there's the foundation. And then they found later that the British had built foundations right on top of the French foundation. So we've got so much history there. Anyway, we've now found 53 foundations. They've done an enormous dig. There's still a lot more to do. But I just compare it with Grand Pre, where they've never found a foundation. They've never found one foundation, but they have a poem. Anyway, this is far more historic, has far more history than Grand Pre, and gets an ounce of the protection or attention that other places get. Little piece of pottery from a dish, could be from Germany, could be from Britain, could be from France, who knows? Another corner of the foundation, I'm just going to run through these, but there's so many of them. Jew's harp they found that was played by an Acadian some night to his children maybe. These are really interesting. They found 22 of these. They're seals off of broadcloth that was made in Europe. When the weavers would make a cloth, they would roll it up and then they would put a seal on it to say, this is my broadcloth. I made this. And then when it was shipped over to Beaubassin, the tailor in the tailor shop would take the seals off and throw them out the window, and we found 22 of them outside this building, so we know that's the tailor shop. But it's the same thing with the blacksmith shop, the livery and everything. So, but it's more pottery, more bottles, I mean, they've just found so many things. And they just continue to dig, find more things. They found a whole bunch of pipes. They must have been smokers like crazy because they had all these pipes for smoking. And again, they're historic. And they had local people come and do a dig. I don't know if any of you participated in the dig, but Charles Burke, the head archaeologist, trained local people and allowed them to do the dig as well. And if any of you did it, it was really interesting. Did you? You did? Oh, Leon did, sure. Leon was looking for his grandfather. Okay, next one. Just to move along. Again, the foundation of the past at Grand Pre, they haven't found a foundation yet. In the rest of this article, this is just from an article, but it was published in 2012. They had just got $50,000 to try to find a foundation. We're sitting here with 53 foundations, much more historic. And there's much more conflict between the British, the French, and the Acadians. There's so much history over there. And I mean, it has such a potential for it to be a tourist attraction and bring thousands of people. Fort Beauséjour gets 20,000 people a year. Beauséjour gets somewhere around 2,000. And really, Beaubassin has more history even than Fort Beauséjour. Here's the bell. This bell is from the church at Beaubassin. And if you're looking closely, just bring it up to the next slide. You can see 1734 on it. This bell was made in 1734 in Paris and shipped to Beaubassin. We still have the bell. The bell was moved to a church in Aulac, and then it went to Fort Beausejour. But it's the bell from Beaubassin. And that's why Morris has always emphasized and focused on the bell. The bell is on the license plate, the bell is on our logo, and the bell is on everything. But we have that bell. I mean, can you imagine that? Now, this is how the government treated Beaubassin for years and years and years. They had a big welcome sign, and then they said, "Do not enter." But that's all there was there, and at the site. Welcome, do not enter. Anyway, go ahead. So here's just a quick history. Beaubassin was founded in 1672. It was burned down by the French in 1750. Fort Lawrence was built by the British on the site of the burnt village of Beaubassin. Acadians and Mi'kmaq shared the Beaubassin location. It was established 77 years before Halifax. It's the second Acadian village after Port Royal. It played a key role in the expulsion of the Acadians. And again, in 1750, Acadians moved across the valley to establish Fort Beausejour. But that's a whack of history, and we're sitting right on top of it in Cumberland County, and it doesn't get any attention. It was purchased, the site was purchased after Charles Burke confirmed that there were actually artifacts there. It was purchased by the government of Canada in 2005, and then in 2006 it was recognized as a National Historic Site. In 2017, they built a significant exhibit with a pavilion and some plaques and things, but we'd like to see a whole lot more. And this is the pavilion there now, and the benches and the plaque and the view looking over the Bay of Fundy. And it's nice, but it's not nearly what it deserves considering the activity and the things that happened there. Again, plaques, walkways, and we've been after them to upgrade it and maintain it, and actually even stop maintaining it. But now they've started to maintain it again because we're after them so much. Next slide, yep. And they have plaques like this to explain how they built the dikes and how they farmed and how they transported the goods. It's what's there is good, but it's not nearly enough. Next slide. It came to my attention, actually, the genealogy professor at the University of Moncton, all he does is Acadian genealogy. He contacted me and said, you know, Justin Trudeau's ancestors were the Savoys, and they came from Beaubassin. And he came down and showed me the whole thing of the direct descendancy of the Savoys to Beaubassin and to Trudeau. I told Mr. Trudeau about it, and he came down and met with Stephen LeBlanc, who was the genealogy professor at the University of Moncton. They both came to Beaubassin, and they looked at it, and they went all through the thing. And that's Mr. Trudeau looking over where the village was and where his great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was born. His great-great-great-great-grandfather was baptized under that bell on May the 7th, 1740. And then we have those records. So it's really interesting. And then with the expulsion of the Acadians, the grandfather was expelled and went down to North Carolina, and the grandmother and 4 children went across Cumberland County over to Port Elgin and got on a boat and went to Quebec. And there, 2 of them died on the way, 2 of the children died on the way, but one of them married into the Elliott family, and hence the Pierre Elliott Trudeau name. But anyway, it's just a little sidebar. But he was baptized there on May the 7th, 1740. Again, this is the route that the family took after the expulsion of the Acadians. They went across that route and then over to Fort Gaspereau, which is next to Port Elgin, and continued on to Quebec. Next slide. So we have over 3 centuries of English, French, Acadian, Aboriginal, and American history, and we consider it a secret.
But it was a secret for a long time.
It was.
But it's no longer a secret.
It's coming. We're working on it. I just want to go a little bit further. Okay,
Sure.
Next slide. The only sign into the road to the National Historic Site of Beaubassin is no exit. We compared that with the signs for Fort Beausejour in New Brunswick, and they have, just keep flipping through them, because there's a whole bunch of, Fort Beausejour has signs and signs and signs and big highway signs everywhere, every turn. They take you right up to the doorstep of Fort Beausejour, and here's the one they have for Beaubassin. After we hounded them, they put this up, and when you're driving by, you can't read it, it's so small. Keep going. I'm almost done. But again, that's the only sign into the road to Beaubassin. Beaubassin is on the second yellow arrow there. Anyway, keep going. We're all done pretty much here. Just keep running through them. And I have, that's the sign. Oh yeah, here's an interesting one. After we complained, Parks Canada came down and put this sign up, and they had the arrow pointing the wrong way. Had the arrow pointing into. So it took us a year to get them to change it. They finally just changed it. Next slide. Again, same thing, no exit. I think we're almost. But here's the signs on the top for Beaubassin, on the bottom are Fort Beausejour. So we've just asked for equal treatment. And one of our requests for you is to ask Parks Canada to give Beaubassin equal treatment to Fort Beausejour. It deserves more than equal treatment because we've actually got more history, but we don't get the attention. It's managed by Parks Canada New Brunswick for some reason, not Parks Canada Nova Scotia. And Parks Canada New Brunswick puts the focus on Fort Beausejour, and Beausejour does not get the attention. But part of our request today is for you to write a letter to Parks Canada and say, this is an important asset of ours, it's an important part of our history. We want equal treatment. That's all. I think that's
Okay. Okay.
that's good. Okay. On over to Morris. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, I interrupted before when I said it's no longer a secret. We are trying to promote it, but it's not just a historical thing. You know, history has its charms, but it doesn't have an appeal for everybody. What it also is, and this is a major point to our presentation, it is an economic issue. Beaubassin can be, and in my opinion is, the biggest opportunity in Cumberland County for a tourism development. I've read that 4 million people of Acadian descent trace their ancestry back to this village. Half of Moncton, a lawyer from Moncton who is involved in the Acadian movement said to me, half the Acadians of Moncton trace their ancestry back to those families that lived in Beaubassin village and the surrounding area. What we haven't said actually is that beside Beaubassin, there were 2 villages in Amherst or near Amherst, also one in Napan, Macan, River Hibbert, and Minudi. All of that, and some villages in Arlac, all of that together was considered Beaubassin the second largest Acadian community in North America. So Beaubassin has a lot of history, and some people consider it the heart of Acadia today. There are millions of people of Acadian descent. I've met some of them when I've been at the site. They had a hard time finding it. I've spoken to people who practically cry about the importance of that village. And for them, it is an emotional thing. But I'm considering that for us, you know, as people who are interested in the future of this, in the welfare of this county, that we should see it as a great tourism potential. That's the other reason, or the main reason why we are here. We are greatly encouraged by the fact that because of representations made by Bill and Leon to the provincial government, the Premier, as well as the Minister of Acadian Affairs and Francophonie, wrote a letter to the Minister in charge of Parks Canada on March 8th. And I won't read the whole thing, but I'll read you 2 parts, because those are the 2 parts that we would like you to take to heart. We are seeking your department's assistance in supporting measures to better highlight the historical and archaeological significance of this site and providing greater awareness of the substantial contributions of early Acadian settlers on this land. The local Acadian and Francophone community is both requesting and leading efforts for enhanced tourism promotion, a walking trail, and an interpretive signage on the site. These initiatives will improve the site's visibility and increase our collective understanding of the past for future generations. It will also help develop a deeper understanding of the history and culture of Acadians. Parks Canada, as far as we understand it, on their own will do not much more than to perhaps sanitize and keep up what is there now. Our association, our society has a plan that we adopted after some discussion, and the plan envisages 3 stages of development that we'd like you to know about. One is to identify the foundations and create pathways to them, so that if an arsenault from Moncton or Louisiana comes, he can go to that site and pray or do whatever he feels like doing. We want to have a recreation there of the church. The Church of Beaubassin was dedicated to Our Lady of the Assumption, and that is what the Acadians adopted as their national holiday. All Acadians adopted that, not just the local people. So that tells you something about the significance of that particular church. We are not envisioning a great big village like there's up in Caracat, but it would be appropriate if there was the rebuilding of one habitation, one house, one barn, side buildings, a garden, and so on. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, that site deserves an interpretive center. An interpretive center that tells the history of the village, but also can be used to tell the history of 2 other historic situations in our county. One, the building of the ship railway, and 2, the Eddie Rebellion. And if it had succeeded, that's a separate story, but if it had succeeded, we would be part of the United States right now. So the Eddie Rebellion centers on that same area, and it could also be woven into this interpretive center. We don't have the money to build these things. It needs to be built with support from the province of Nova Scotia and the federal government, and that's more likely to happen if people like you can identify with this issue, can identify with this project, can see the value of this project, and help us get there somehow over a period of time. It's going to cost a lot of money, but you all know that if there's a will, if there's a good idea, the money can be found, but it has to start sometime. Now, I meant to have Leon talk before I did, but I couldn't help but get these words in. And what I'm going to do, Mr. Harrod, I'm going to send you a copy of our plan. I meant to bring it with me, but I'll send it to you. And I'm also going to leave you with these pamphlets, and if anyone wants a license plate. Okay, Leon, sorry.
Morris, just before you leave, in a copy of the letter, the provincial letter that you wrote, that was written,
Pardon me?
can we have a copy of that as well? The letter that the
Yeah,
province wrote?
I already sent it in, but I can leave this with you right now.
Well,
I'll leave it with Craig.
even when you get it to Greg,
leave it with
with
Craig.
everything else, that'd be great. And the other thing is, if you could draft a letter yourselves that we could write and sign and support, that would be very helpful for us.
Yeah, that's
Could you do that, Bill?
Say that again, ask him for
If you folks would draft a letter for us in regards to what Morris asked earlier about a letter.
We can do it.
If you could help us or draft it for us, just like we did much did with the signage letter that we did for you.
Yeah.
If you could do the same for that, that would be great.
It's a great opportunity, an incredible opportunity.
Yep.
It's sitting right there. And, you know, if you consider the money they put into tourism in other counties, why not Cumberland County?
Yep. Thank you, Morris.
Thanks, Morris.
Am I okay to speak from here?
Sure, Leon. Yeah, the only thing is, if you wouldn't mind coming to the microphone, Leon. And don't remember, folks, we need to leave a couple minutes, please, time for questions.
I'm
'cause
gonna be very
councilors may-
brief.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Leon.
I'm
Just wanna
used
make
to
sure.
following these two, so I don't
Yeah.
expect much time.
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm just here to express gratitude to Cumberland County for the support that we received from you guys for the festival last year. It was a great success. Far surpassed what I thought it was going to be, and I'm very pleased about that. This year is an even bigger opportunity. The Congrès Mondial des Acadiens is being hosted by Claire down the South Shore. Starts on August 10th. We're having our festival on August 8th to sort of try to take advantage of the cross-border traffic that will be going on and just create more awareness about the things that you've just heard about. We really appreciate the support, and we hope that we can count on you to have that be ongoing. And I guess I'll just turn it over to give you the opportunity to ask any questions.
Mention the exhibit.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. We're going to have the Parks Canada Shignecto exhibit, that's the traveling exhibit that's, I think it originated in Pier 21 in Halifax. It was hosted in Sackville for a couple of months, but we're going to have it at Amherst Town Hall for the months of the summer, and it will be there during the festival time. So hope you can all take advantage of that.
Thank you. So I'd like to open up questions from councilors now, if anyone has any questions for our three guests. I guess you covered it all quite, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Councilor Gould, please.
Thank you, Worship. It's not a question, just I want to thank you guys for the presentation, really interesting. It's fascinating that there's that much history over there, and I've lived here all my life too, and I didn't know a whole lot about it, so appreciate you coming in and giving us that information.
Bill and I have done some tours. We've organized some tours of the site. They can take from 45 to 60 minutes. If you guys ever want us to organize one for anybody that's associated with council or staff, be happy to do so.
Thank you for that, Morris. Any other questions or comments from councilors for our guest? Councilor O'Telling, please.
Is the festival going to be on the site? Or I know it was in the town last year.
It'll be the same location it was last year.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I'm from northern BC, and there's a little gold rush historical village there called Barkerville, close to my hometown. And I don't know how many tourists come through, but it is crammed full all summer. And the pictures remind me of the same thing, so I can see your vision. Yeah, it's great.
Thank you, Councilor O'Telling. Anyone else? Comment, Deputy Mayor Gilroy, please.
Thank you, Worship. For those that on council that are not aware, the western terminus of the Shignecto Ship Railway is approximately 1,000 yards from the Beaubassin site. So if Morris has offered up a tour of the Beaubassin site, so if anybody, Councilor Gould, it sounds like you might need to have the tour, you for sure, I'll sign you up now. We could do a double, and I could do the tour of the ship railway along with Bill, and
Yep.
and there is some fascinating things to see out there. There really is. Old foundations, some of the original stone from the ship railway, and the best time to go is on high tide when the wind's blowing hard out of the west. You get a real appreciation for it. I always say to people, I go once a year. I have since I was a little kid. In the middle of a heavy storm, usually in August when a big storm's coming up, and I always tell people, I got to make my annual trip to the end of the earth. And if you've ever stood and leaned into the wind out there on a high tide in a big storm in late August, you just look around and you go, wow, you can't, it's just an amazing place. It really is. And all of that whole thing is so important to us as historically, that, it just makes a lot of sense to
And
push
as
it
a
forward.
tourist attraction.
Oh, absolutely.
yeah.
It's phenomenal, really.
A lot of
No
people
offense.
don't know anything about it, and those that have a vague idea do not realize that the Shignecto Marine Ship Railway was the largest project of its kind in the world, and almost succeeded.
It is also recognized as a National Historic Engineering Site. When you go down the Fort Lawrence Road, on the right-hand side is a National Historic Site federally of Beaubassin. On the other side is a provincial historic site of the ship railway, and the only sign is no exit. And it's absolutely incredible. So I think the province should be moving on the ship railway, and they're starting to. They're going to start to move some of the stones back out of the water. They're going to retrieve these great big cut stones. I was talking to them yesterday. They're going to start moving those stones, I hope, right away and save them. But it's unbelievable that we have these two historic sites on one road, and one sign says no exit.
Thank you. Anyone else? Look, on behalf of council, I just want to thank you very much, not only for coming today in the presentation, but all the work you've been doing for our area. It's phenomenal what's happening here. It's the terrific history and heritage is all about our communities from centuries, and really appreciate it. So Morris, you offered that you're going to send Mr. Harrett the information you have, but also a copy of that letter the province wrote?
Yes.
In regards to looking
If
for
you have
support?
that,
We have it
yeah.
already? Good, thank you, that was quick.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, you asked about us writing a letter that maybe possibly could help us draft.
Well, there
So-
was already a letter
Yeah.
written, wasn't there?
I wrote one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was already a letter written, yeah. And the response wasn't very good. Parks Canada said it's up to the province to put up these great big signs.
But that was in response, Leon, to the sign, we wrote back then as well, didn't we? We wrote back on your behalf in regards to requesting
Yeah.
additional signage for the area.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But you're looking for an additional letter now in regards to the project itself, more
I
than just
wrote
the
another
signage.
letter to ministers of the province, and I think that's in part what helped us put the arrow around. It took
Yeah.
a significant effort just to have one bolt
Amazing.
taken out and an arrow
Amazing.
flipped, but anyway, perhaps I could send that along and we could take a look at that being a draft.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
We'll send you a draft letter.
That'd be great. If you do that, that'd be very helpful. We understand what it is that you're,
Equal treatment,
yeah.
just equal treatment.
So you would help us with the drafting letter. We'll be more than pleased to support you on that and whatever else we can do to support the project.
Thank you. Thanks for
Great.
this.
No, thank you for coming. It's really interesting, and apologize about the time. It's, there's some other issues we're trying to do. So look, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it, and look forward to working with you on this in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, folks. That brings us down to, actually, number 3, no, we do not have any organizational policy bylaw items, but number 4, business issues. So 4.1 is the River Hibbert Joggers and Area Development Association request for the River Phillip Foundation. Mr. McCracken, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this request originated from, as you mentioned, the River Hibbert Joggins Area Development Association for the municipality to receive money on their behalf from the River Phillip Foundation. We haven't had a similar request in quite some time, but you may recall that the municipality has accepted donations of this nature in the past and has provided receipts to the donor and dispersed funds to the requested recipient. The disbursement is contingent on approval by council and is for an expenditure which the municipality has authority to spend. So we have some correspondence in the package from both the foundation and the association, and there's a recommended motion in your package.
Thank you, sir. So the recommended motion is that the request by the River Hibbert Joggins and Area Development Association for the municipality to receive up to $20,000 from the River Phillip Foundation to disperse these funds to the River Hibbert Joggins and Area Development Association be forward to the May 29, 2024 regular council meeting for consideration. Someone like to make that motion? Moved by Councillor Porter, seconded by Councillor Joseph. Any questions or comments in regards to this agenda item? Seeing none, a call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Peter. 4.2, Provincial Capital Assistance Program Project Selection. Mr. Walcrest, Director of Public Works. Sir?
The province of Nova Scotia opened applications for the Provincial Capital Assistance Program. This is a relatively modestly sized program, less than $700,000 for the province, but to help with water, wastewater type projects. And we require a motion of council to identify which project we'd like to put forward for submission. Staff is recommending the Parisboro Wellfield Generator Project based on the size of it and the importance of this project to the Cumberland Water Utility and the Parisboro water system. And that's complete. All 3 portions of the Parisboro system will be able to operate on generator power indefinitely with the contingent of supply of fuel in the event of a power outage. This is the last piece of that puzzle, and 50% funding from the province would go a long way towards helping the utility get that made a reality. So the motion there is in your package, Your Worship, and happy to answer any of council's questions.
Thank you, sir. So the recommended motion is that council forward the decision to submit an application for the Parisboro Wellfield Generator Project to the province of Nova Scotia's Provincial Capital Assistance Program to the May 29th, 2024 regular council meeting. Someone like to make that motion, please? Moved by Councillor Goodwin, seconded by Councillor Hotelling. Any questions or comments for Mr. Walcrest in regards to this agenda item? Seeing none, call for the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Contrary-minded, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you, sir. Number 5, external reports, committee minutes. So 5.1 is solid waste monthly report. That's for information for counselors' purposes, so everyone should have that. Brings down number 6, internal update reports, committee minutes. So 6.1, administration department monthly report. Mr. McCracken, deputy CAO.
Are there any questions? Is that quick enough? So, realizing we've, we had a great presentation, we're going to try to keep these quickly. We do have a workshop at 6 o'clock. We've made some great hires recently. I think you met our new manager of financial services, I believe, last week, Sarah McWade. Also, Kathleen McHogue, you would have potentially met upstairs here at the counter. And we have a new manager of fire services, Kendall Spence, who's beginning on, I guess it'll be Tuesday, as Monday's the holiday. We're also pleased to say that we've had our collective agreement officially signed. In terms of communications, there's some highlights in your package. One of note is that we'll be soft launching a new alert system called Voyant Alert, and Daryl's been leading, and that is a public alert system that will provide various alerts around emergencies or recreation events or a variety of alerts that you can subscribe to, so we'll be encouraging council to sign up for that when the time comes. And finally, just pleased to announce we're continue to push our accessibility work forward with reviewing our accessibility plan. We're looking at our documents for better accessibility and exploring other service-related changes that'll create more accessibility when somebody calls into our service desks. And the grants to organizations, which we'll chat about more later this evening. We received around 90 county general grants and the requests of over $1.2 million. And we'll be making some decisions on those later this evening. Happy to take any questions.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments for Mr. McCracken in regards to his report? So, seeing none, I do have one. So around our cameras, that we entered into agreement with cameras throughout the municipality, I think 7.
Yes.
Could you just real quickly just tell us if they're up and running,
Yeah,
where they are,
I
and
believe
if
there's
they're being monitored?
Yeah,
By who?
there's
Thank you.
believe. Sorry, Your Worship, interrupting there.
No, good.
Believe there's six cameras have been installed. There's a 7th that, because of, I guess, safety and proximity to power transfer boxes and things like that, we had to postpone. We're going to find another location. That one is in Pugwash, yeah, near the library. But there's been one located near the transfer station in Pugwash. There's one at the playgrounds in the Mechanic Street Playground in Spring Hill, Community Center in Spring Hill, right outside here at the fenced-in compound here, as well as 2 in Parsboro, one on the main street and one in the playground area of Parsboro. So they're installed, and now we need to get training on the software and surveillance, and we've identified just this morning which staff we're going to do that with, and then we'll be on our way.
Great, great. Thank you very much. And it'll be in some communities, particularly the Parsboro area, I know that they'll be very welcome addition to the community around Main Street and that park area, so playground area. So thank you for that. Good, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate your report and know your work. Thank you and your staff. 6.2, Development and Planning Department monthly report. Mr. Boone, Director, Development and Planning. Sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Your Worship. I guess I set the standard last month, so on reports. A little bit more detail in your package than the last couple of reports. Now having a full team in place, a few more projects getting worked through. But from a highlight perspective, several planning applications that you as a council have seen through the public hearing, first reading and public hearing process, they will be coming forward for second reading council later this month. The stats are there for planning and subdivision as well as building permit. Still pretty steady on subdivision processing and applications. Building permits slightly down, your worship, as per the data, about 8.5% over last year, but reminding council, as well as those that might be watching online, that last year was a record year, and we're about 2.5 times the permits we would have been in 2000. So even with a slight decrease, we're still very heavy where, with respect to permitting. Several publications have been updated for economic development. Based on the presentation we just had, we're trying to be more in tune with opportunities. So we have a few publications that are, tourism-related information that we were putting at the visitor information centers throughout the province. And then just quickly on the broadband internet project, you can see there was actually a map. I just showed that as an example in the report. What we're doing is we're comparing the information that our contractor ExploreNet has been providing us as far as service throughout the county, and we just had our GIS analysts kind of take their data and compare it. So making sure that we're on track with that contract. So those are the big highlights. The last thing I wanted to mention, which didn't happen in April, but happened very early in the month of May, is our 2 junior building officials who had been appointed residential inspectors or building officials. They have actually now 100% completed their training and are certified level 1 building officials. So I thought that was worth noting because council supported as well as the senior mid team to get those folks trained, and it's promoting and training from within, I think, is a great story, as I've mentioned in the past when they first got appointed as residential building officials. So unless there's any questions, your worship, I'll leave the report there.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. That's a great report. Appreciate all the work you and your staff do, on our behalf. Any questions for Mr. Boone in regards to his report or information provided? Seeing none? Good, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Worship.
you to you and your staff. Appreciate it. 6.3, Finance Department Monthly Report. Ms. Hurdle, our Director of Finance, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The budget is complete. That's the big exciting news. As you all know, it was approved on May 8th. Property taxes are on track to hopefully be sent to residents by the end of May. In terms of collections of property taxes, because we're at the end of the year, it's kind of important to look at. So we are at about just over 97% for last year. There were 145 tax certificates issued in the month of April. There was one big group of them, so that's why it's so high this month. And outstanding water as of April 30th is there. Keep in mind there is a little bit of timing difference as we transitioned Parsboro to metered and now Spring Hill to metered. So about a year from now, that'll be good information, but for now it's a little, there's some timing things going on there. Important to note publicly that there were no bills for Spring Hill this quarter because they were flat billed, and now they're going to be metered billed, so they'll be billed in early July. So if you get any questions about that, that's why. And there were 7 disconnections done in April.
Great. Thank you, Amy. Any questions for Amy in regards to her report to council? Seeing none? Thank you, Amy, so much. Thank you to you and your staff. Appreciate all the great work you do for us. Thank you. 6.4, Protective Service Department Monthly Report. Mr. Cole, Director of Public Protective Services.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the emergency management front, work's ongoing on the new revised emergency management plan. There was also a funding opportunity from ACOA to upgrade comfort centers. So we tried to disperse those funds strategically across comfort centers, primary comfort centers throughout the municipality, including the towns of Oxford and Amherst. There's a couple of photographs of generators that were installed in Amherst and at the community center in Spring Hill. As the Deputy CAO mentioned, we're pleased to have a manager of fire services joining us next week. Kendall Spence was formerly the fire chief at Spring Hill, is well qualified, and I think will be an excellent addition to our team. On the safety side of things, we had 48 employees go through fire extinguisher training last month. And for facilities, the campground is about to open. There's a flurry of activity been going on for a couple of weeks there, getting everything ready. And the Don York Ball Field is now operational as well. Happy to take any questions, Your Worship.
Good, sir. Thank you, Al, for all that, and appreciate all that great work. Any questions or comments for staff in regards to Mr. Cole's report? No? All good? Good, sir. Thank you very much, and thank you to your staff. We really appreciate it, Al. Thank you. 6.5, Public Works Department Monthly Report. Mr. Walkrest, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple projects we were working on in the month of April were access systems at the Spring Hill Water Treatment Plant. These are platforms and catwalks that allow greater and safer access to some equipment in the plant when they're doing their maintenance and repairs to that equipment. There's also going to be some fall restraint anchors installed in the ceiling at a future date. The contractor's still working on that piece, but again, improving productivity and safety at that facility. The Upper Nepean Public Works team worked with the contractor at the Biggs Drive wastewater treatment plant to upgrade some of the hardware that controls the plant and communicates out to our central systems and cell phones. And that equipment that we replaced will be taken to stock. And one of the reason we did this was the supplier who makes the equipment discontinued what we use in all our plants. And so we've upgraded this facility to new technology, taken the old into stock to use repairs on all our other facilities because we can't buy new parts for those old ones. So this puts us in a good position as equipment expires unexpectedly to have spares in stock, as well as upgraded new equipment at this facility as well. And staff from the municipality attended a meeting with the other northern region municipalities with Circular Materials. They'll be running EPR for their companies and producer responsibility. Extended producer responsibility, sorry. It's kind of early days. It was the initial consultation that Circular Materials had with the municipalities, and some feedback was provided on behalf of Town of Amherst and Town of Oxford and the municipality by Ms. Brenda Ryu to Circular Materials, and there's more consultations booked here in June. There, as well, there's a list of other activities that Public Works crew got on in your package. Your Worship, happy to answer any questions council may have.
Thank you, sir. So any questions for Mr. Walkrest? Councillor Joseph, please.
Just a comment. A couple weeks ago, there was Mr. Kevin Mills and his son Alex Mills who picked up a whack of garbage off we call the black track between the wastewater treatment plant and Surrett Battery. And I just want to say thank you to the Public Works in Spring Hill for going out and retrieving that garbage and getting rid of that waste. So that was something less on their plate to handle. So I want to say to the Spring Hill Public Works and to yourself and staff, thank you very much.
Your Worship?
Yes, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you. No, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Walkrest? Seeing none, thank you, sir, very much. Thank you, and to your staff for the great work you do. Thank you very much. Six 6.6, Recreation Community Services Department Monthly Report. Mr. McCracken.
Thank you, Worship. Just quickly, we're into the spring season now, so we have the Spring Craft Fair coming up, as well as farmers market season. So that'll be starting up at the community center, and we have lots of interest in both of those this year again, which is great. There's some highlights in your package around some of the events and facility usage at the community center. And I wanted to, summer programming is another big thing that we're working on now. I think we're, one person short of a full slate of summer students now, which is great. I think we're well ahead of where we've been in the past. Seems like people are out working again, looking for work again, which is great. Since COVID, the trend is going up. And we've got another full slate of great summer programming, and the brochure, which we'll share with folks, will be ready next week, we're hoping. Just wanted to, it's not in your package, just wanted to, though, highlight that we've had several engagement sessions for the active living and recreation strategy, and they've gone quite well. Four were very well attended, the public ones. Also had consultations or engagement sessions with organizations throughout the municipality, as well as a youth survey, as well as a broad citizen survey. So we have lots of data to collect on what people want in a future plan for active living and recreation. We hope to have a draft in front of council within a few weeks' time. So that's the update. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. So any questions or comments from Mr. McCracken in regards to his report? Seeing none, thank you, sir, very much. Appreciate it. Thank you to you and your staff. That brings us down to, that's the end of the staff reports, brings down the information items. So 7.1, contracts awarded by the CAO. Mr. Harrop.
Thank you, Your Worship. I distributed just before the meeting, so the ink is like still wet on this document. One of the contracts actually was approved yesterday. So 4 items there that I've awarded the contracts to under the authority of the CAO's office through the procurement policy. Happy to answer any questions that council might have on any of those projects.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Harrop in regards to the report regarding awarding contracts? None? Thank you, sir. That brings us down to number 7.2, update on correspondence from Pictou. Mr. Boone, Director of Development and Planning.
Thank you, Worship. This is a follow-up to a background presentation I provided to the Committee of Whole back in April. At the same time, we were doing an update based on the release of the Coastal Action Plan from the province. We received correspondence from the Municipality of the County of Pictou, expressing a desire to look at collective approach to coastal planning and municipal and land use bylaw planning. I did have some contact with the staff from the municipality, and I'm also aware through other contacts in the planning community that both the Municipality of Pictou as well as neighboring Colchester are really just in the midst of their first comprehensive plan review, or plan development for an MPS and land use planning documents. So at this point, we, as the Municipality of Cumberland, have several policies in place and guidance within our land use bylaw that looks at coastal action and coastal protection. So our thought at this point, after the conversations with the municipality and my understanding what's happening in our neighboring municipality in Colchester as well, is that we would probably be best served at this point to let them finish their initial planning process. And we already are looking at this as a key issue within our own municipal plan review, which would be scheduled for the current fiscal year, Your Worship. So the report is in your package. If you have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I will note, Your Worship, that we have had several inquiries with regards to coastal protection and elevations within the last few weeks as things are ramping up in building permits. So it's obviously an issue that's fresh in our constituents' minds based on the release of information from the province, as well as just generally busier time of year for people to look at permits and development. So again, happy to answer any specific questions, but I have followed up on the correspondence, and at this point, the information's in the package.
Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from Mr. Boone in regards to his report of the coastal protection issue? So, Mr. Boone, just before you go, so do I understand correctly? I believe, you know, when Nelson was with us, he talked to us about how the Municipality of Cumberland, in regards to its planning strategy and land use bylaw, that we were actually had a lot of work was done here prior to the province looking at this very issue. So I think it's important for folks to know that the municipality's done a lot of work over the last number of years that actually probably puts us ahead, I think in the words of some, ahead of other municipalities that haven't really looked at this themselves for the last few years. So is that a fair statement that we're probably ahead as far as the issue itself and how we planned, how we deal with it in the future? And is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's a fair statement, Your Worship. The package of information I provided back in March gave an overview of the policies that we have in place in respect to coastal action, and not just protection on our coastline, but also our rivers and any water courses. So I think it's a very fair statement to say that policies that we have in place with regards to coastal protection, elevation, water course protection are much more advanced than a lot of municipalities that are going through this process for the first time. But also I think it's fair to say, Your Worship, that those policies can be reviewed as part of our overall planning strategy review. And I think it puts us in really good stead in respect to what the province did release on their coastal action plan, because as you remember from the presentation I made back in March and what's been released by the province, is it's a plan as opposed to legislation. So we have legislation in our bylaw and planning strategy policy in place. So I think it's more than a fair statement.
Good, sir. Thank you.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Greg.
also fair to say that not all rural municipalities like Cumberland County have a comprehensive land use plan, and we do, Colchester and Pictou. So if we think about those counties that kind of go up the North Shore, Colchester and Pictou do not. They're in the process of putting one in place, but we have comprehensive land use planning. In fact, we're getting ready to review it for a second time. So we think we're in half decent shape.
And in fairness to your worship, internally, senior staff and working with the CAO, we have talked about policies around coastal action, elevations, river protection. And, I do know as a fact, because we're working with a committee of the province through CBCL Engineering that are doing much more detailed flood mapping than what was released with the coastal protection information, which is very helpful. But there's more detailed information coming, which will be more specific to actual spot elevations in particular flood zones or at-risk areas. So that information, the first part of it was actually released this week. We're just waiting for the information to release for Cumberland County. That would be the south, so basically the La Planche River, Amherst area south to the Fundy Shore. But the same program is currently working on the same information for the northern part of the municipality, as well as the areas of the CEO just mentioned, Colchester and Pictou County right onto the Cancel Strait. So we're going to have more information, more detailed mapping, flood mapping that can assist with our zoning and plan review. So I'm happy to know that and share with you that information is fast tracking now. So thank you.
Good, sir. Thank you very much. So any questions or comments arising from the last bit of information from council? Seeing none, thank you, sir, very much. Appreciate all your work and yours as staff, as always, Glenn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, that brings us to the end of our agenda, so I'd now ask for a motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gilroy. We are adjourned.